Man, literally as he says that, I fucking closed it.
I thought that too.
Wow.
I thought, fuck. He's literally just ended the meeting. I opened my phone and Matt's like, yeah, man, figure it out.
Oh, there he
Why
is.
you do me dirty like that? Why you do me dirty?
Hey, man.
I'm on my King Hacker shit.
Oh, how funny.
What's up, boys? I missed you guys.
Oh, not up, man. Just chilling. What about you?
Just living the dream.
Yeah, your face is still looking pretty slim.
Hey, yeah, once the beard starts to grow out, then you know off season's getting serious, and I don't want to.
Word up,
boys. We're back.
I'm probably the second heaviest on this chat now.
What are you weighing?
Throw your weights at me. Who's weighing what right now?
You're not the second heaviest.
I was like, I don't know about that.
Hey, how heavy are you, Louie?
What am I?
Yeah,
like 111.
Ooh. What do you stand?
103.
Yeah, fuck you guys. I'm 110.
And I take the lead.
On the lightest.
114.
No one's asked Adam because we already know.
Everyone. That's why I said second.
I forgot Stan's short.
I'm going to the fridge to get the insulin right now.
Yeah.
This is bullshit. This is such bullshit.
Stan, can you turn your thing sideways? I want to see what that does.
What did you want?
Your phone. No, turn your phone.
Oh, like that?
Yeah.
Fuck an idiot.
Yeah, that's
I
better.
was full Zealand shit.
It's very funny though.
Is that better?
So Maddie's up to 110. And he's
Yeah,
still
110.
got like slim cheeks.
Did you see that? Feel that happening? Do you want me to take another drink? You see that?
If I finish 2 liters of water by the end of this chat, I'll be 112. We're all right.
Let's kick off with, well, obviously this is like, the bros back in chat again. We haven't caught up for a little while, just the four of us. But I think like Louie and I were chatting earlier in the week, talking about like catching up and figuring out where we're at with like a current situation. So Louie, kick us off. Where you at? What's happening?
I am just started my first week of prep, so I'm in the habit stacking phase of just trying to like stack good things upon one another. Because one of the things that like Hannah and I, I'm trying to explain to Hannah is Hannah's getting frustrated because it's like, it doesn't always just swap from like off season to prep like over the day. It's kind of like a changing process. So I'm kind of just like reiterating through this week that it's changing. So, the little resistances of like, oh, I don't want to do cardio right now and all that stuff. We're just expecting that and just trying to like get on top of that and just get a really good free flowing routine because we're up here and there's nothing around. So there's no excuses around either. So
Hannah's prepping too, yeah?
Yeah, we're gonna do the same one. We want to do if everything goes to plan, we'd like to like go to Europe after as well and compete over there.
Oh,
I think that'd be really fun. Like, because in Australia you don't get that. I'm sure I've said it 1,000 times before. You don't get like a full season. Whereas if you do travel, you can kind of extend your season. So I think that'd be fun because there's so much work and effort to get in shape. And I was mad jealous when Stan went over to Singapore and did another show. So
that's what I was thinking. Like that was so cool that he continued on and did that show. That was so cool.
Yeah. No one saw it coming either. There's just all stage pics coming out.
Yeah, no.
That's so cool that I motivated you to do that. I love that.
Yeah, bro, it was really cool. But yeah, so I'm just trying to like just get on top of things a bit early because a lot of people already started prepping and I'm only starting now, but I don't think I'm too far out of shape. I just want to
those videos you're putting out.
Yeah,
I wonder what it is that is so exciting because you just made me pumped up to actually watch you do that journey now. And I wonder what it is. Like, I think because you're Australian and we're involved with you and then you're going overseas, you know what I mean? Like, I wonder because that pumps me up to want to watch that.
I think it's cool, man. Like, I think one of my biggest goals in the whole bodybuilding thing is to be a top Australian representative, not just like some athlete from Australia and you leave the Australia part out and you just go and chase your thing. Like I've always thought it'd be really cool to like have, you know, be one of the front guys from Australia, because we don't have too many guys on the scene that are kicking ass. But now the crop that's coming through and the guys that have already got pro cards and the guys that are pretty determined to get them, it's going to be a pretty elite few of, you know, like our caliber of athletes is really high because we aren't giving out pro cards all the time. So there's a lot of pros that are still walking around as amateurs. So I think if we can secure a few pro cards, Australia might be a little more dangerous than we thought.
I want to go deeper into what you were saying, Louie, in a second. But like talking about that, like we have quite a lot of pros currently, but they're kind of not competing. You know, I can think of heaps of them already. You know, Nathan and Logan. Who else? There's heaps of guys.
Josh,
Aaron. Yeah, Aaron maybe, but anyway. But there's so many of them, and they're not competing. And it's great that you're saying, like, you know, if everything goes well, you want to head over and start competing. That's great, you know.
Yeah, it'd be good fun.
But I don't know, like, what do you reckon is the reason why some of these guys are not competing? And like Nathan is so big, he's enormous, you know.
I think he had some travel issues where he wasn't, from what I heard.
Yeah, I heard that as well.
He wasn't allowed to travel.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he would be kicking ass in that pro circuit, eh?
Yeah, 100%. But there's other guys as well, man. There's other pros as well. Great. That
Alex Connor competed recently overseas. He's out. I would say he's the only Australian. Other than is there any girls as well? But in the males, I think only Alex Connor's the legend did some classic shows in Romania, and
he looked really good.
Ethan Gohari did earlier in the year as well. Did Europe. Did pretty well. I think he got a top 10 finish in one of his pro shows. Top 7 even.
Yeah. While we're on Classic as well, I did see that Callum Hines just started his prep for he's going to do a couple of pro shows over in the US as well.
He's doing the New York, and what else is he doing?
Chicago as well, I think, off the top of my head.
Yeah.
That's two big fucking shows to do, mind you.
Yeah, I mean, because he's coached by Matt, and fuck, man, he's put on some serious size. He looks great. He looks really good.
Yeah, I trained with him because he just moved back up your way, didn't he, Louie?
Yeah.
Or you're not on Gold Coast.
Yeah, he moved back to the Gold Coast.
Yeah. But I trained with him like before he moved back, and yeah, he's a monster now, bro. It's huge,
bro. He's holding that picture was like 116 kilos. Bro, when I was 116 kilos, I didn't look like that.
I'm not gonna lie. Right before we jumped on, I was just scrolling IG and he just put a post up and I saw his post and I immediately put a meal on straight away. I was like, okay, cool.
Time to eat.
I gotta eat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like if you've watched his process, like he's so consistent with his food, with his training. Like there's no wonder he's growing so much. Yeah. You know, he's done really well. Yeah. But it is inspiring, man. Like it really is. Yeah. Louie, go deeper into what you were saying before about like the transition between off season and like now you're going into the start season, but it's not just an instant flick.
Oh, it's just it's a lot of opposite ends of the spectrum, from like stacking on size to now ripping off body fat. You know, like even stuff just like I think you start to pay attention to the smaller details and how they compound throughout the day, like. You know, like waking up times or like your time before your first meal and when you're going to do your fasted cardio and all that stuff. I think that starts to play a real role because, like, you know, for me, one thing that I'm like, okay, this is something that needs to be checked is a really relaxed off season, which allows for a lot of muscle growth, is almost the complete opposite of a contest prep, right? So for me, it's like being too chill throughout the day, and now my days are running too long with all the workload that a prep is giving me. So now I have to actually have a bit of a sense of urgency as soon as I wake up in the morning to actually start getting things done, rather than just like chilling and it'll be fine and I can eat 5,000 calories, no worries today, and just take my time and all that stuff. So it's just things like that, man. But I'm enjoying it, and you know, like it's one of those things as well. Is like if you don't start hustling, someone's gonna beat you. And I don't like that.
That's definitely, it definitely sounds like the life of like an online coach who.
Yeah, it is. It very much is. But you know, it's pretty. I think it's very fortunate that I'm able to just like, because I love bodybuilding since I was like 16 years old, man, and now I get to do that full time while just teaching other people the process, which is awesome. You know, I couldn't have dreamed for anything better. You know, so
That's
yeah.
super inspiring for other guys who are coming up in the ranks to go, you know what, like I want to be like Louie, you know, like I want to be the top of my game and also, you know, be an online coach and everything. Well, you know, you kind of got to prove that you can do it before you can start being that online coach. You know?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, man, the world we live in now, like all it does is show you that, you know, like I used to be a welder and weld in someone else's shed for 40 hours a week. Just, you know, I'm not doing overtime as a welder. Fuck that shit. You know, I used to work as a welder and I just thought, man, like, I can't keep going on like this. Like every welder I knew just had a, you know, a messed up back and a messed up neck. And I just thought, man, the longevity of a bodybuilder's career that's doing welding probably isn't that great. So I thought I'll as soon as the opportunity arose, I always said I'd do something else. And I have, and it's just kind of proven that, you know, somebody wants what you've got and you can make a living off that thing that you've got to give. So go and give it and get your money and live, you know, a little bit more fulfilled than someone who's just in a shed or, you know, trapped at a job that they hate. Like, man, like it's going to be a little bit scary at first. Change always is, but it's definitely worth it. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Mate, can we vote you for president or something?
Too much eyes on me, man.
No, that's good, man. And like I want to know the transition, because you know you had a really short off season, but you actually stacked a shitload of muscle on in that off season. Now you're transitioning back into prep. What have you done with your super sups? Like, have you had to come off? Did you go on, stay on? Like, what did you do with that?
I've always been really moderate with all that stuff. I don't think that is the secret. And to me, I'm proof that it's not. Ross even said to me, he's like, the level of stuff that you've run is, he said, if you'd been running grams, I would have believed you, you know, but you're not, and you're running this. I almost can't believe that, you know, this is, you know, your androgen exposure is very, very low, is what he said. So, even then, you still post-show, #1 anabolic driver, start eating, yo. So didn't really do much super subs after that. Like after the show, I kind of just cruised. And then now they're even lower, just above TRT somewhere. I think I'm around about 400 milligrams total a week or something like that. Just, you know, nothing too amazing, but also keeping in mind that we're entering contest prep. Yeah, so nothing really dramatic, man. It's just the main thing is always going to be food. The super subs are just there to help you remain anabolic and grow.
So what advice would you give then for anyone who does want to do back-to-back seasons? Well, hang on, we can't give advice on that, but just don't ignore that.
Yeah, my advice though would be keep cool and don't lose control. That would be my advice anyway, because no matter what, like doing, and Maddie would know, doing back-to-back seasons, it's a bit of a grind. It definitely makes it feel more like a job. Hey, Maddie, because you're working and you didn't get a break.
Yeah, just touching on super subs real quick. You got to understand that when you're in a calorie deficit, the PEDs are there to help reduce catabolism. They're not there to grow muscle. You're not, you know, 95% of what we do is away from PEDs. You know, that's where all the stuff does. And it just helps mitigate any other issues or any unnecessary muscle loss and things like that. So running ridiculous doses for long periods of time, there's no benefit to it whatsoever. And I always come off completely. I came off completely between the two shows, and I continue to do so. The problem for me is, like, I'm not a big eater. I know Louie's a big eater, so him in his off season smashing foods, like, no problem whatsoever.
Highly palatable foods, mind you.
Highly palatable foods. I think so many people get in this mindset, you know, that they can grow into the show and they smash all these PEDs and And, that's just not how the science really works when you look into it. So
no, you've really got to be in a surplus. That's what off season's for, And I the best thing I ever heard actually was in Fuad's podcast, and Ian said it. It was so interesting, and he basically said like there's a trend with all the top bodybuilders and us as well, that not taking a whole lot of PEDs. Like we're not taking that much. But the reason why a lot of these people are taking so much is because they don't have sort of the genetics to sort of take it in. A lot of people just don't have great genetics. And so unfortunately, they're just going, I need more, I need more, I need more. And it's just like, well, it's not. Who's that?
Have you got food? Coming back. It's all right.
The timing.
I don't want anyone to see it.
Come say what's up.
I love you so much. Thank you.
Oh, the food comes in.
Oh. Hey, babe.
How funny.
Hannah just brought Louie a meal on the podcast. So what are you doing?
Level up, mate. Don't be mad, yo. How good's that?
Hey, that's what I was sort of saying, right? That's a great segue, because it is the food, right? It's not the gear or anything like that. Louie, well, actually, all of us have great genetics for the sport. It's just Louie knows how to punch in the food, as we can see right now.
Yeah, I'd even add the assimilation of the food too, because I remember having Sean Roden in the shop. He had a broken jaw, and he sucked down like 3 scoops of gainer and a family pack of Tim Tams. We blended it in a blender for him, and he sucked it through a straw. And the man assimilated the whole thing. He didn't get any bloat. He didn't get any gas. I mean, if you've got the right gut bacteria to be able to absorb something like that, like, they call it like the iron gut or whatever, then you're going to look tip top, So genetically, I think it comes from your gut a lot too.
I think mine's pretty strong from just like years and years of plowing KFC and stuff,
It can handle the poison.
Stan, that's interesting you say that. Do you have any sort of foods that you get irritated from? Like I know when we were away in Vegas, like Sontane, she'd been prepping for so long, she wanted to get ice cream and stuff like that. I don't eat ice cream because if I have ice cream, I feel shit in the stomach. Like my stomach was awful. So I avoid that stuff like the plague. Have you got anything else like that for you?
Definitely yeast, like bread. If I eat bread, I look like I'm 6 months pregnant. Like if it's sourdough, I'm pretty sure that feeds lactobacillus, so that's not so bad. But especially sourdough rye because it's lower GI. But most breads will just set me off big time. So I try to avoid all the, which sucks because I love having some bread sometimes. But anything else that kicks me off? I think if I just get overly fat, I can start getting too much estrogen. So I keep my body fat like around 12% or less. Like I always have a 6-pack, even in my off season, because I don't want to get fat. They just start aromatizing hormones and losing estrogen.
Yeah, it's interesting, like how Lee Priest used to get so freaking big, but then suck right down and got super shredded. But he competed for so many years, and he's.
I think Lee Priest is the anomaly for a lot of rules. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
He breaks a lot of
such a genetic freak.
He was a genetic freak, but he didn't his weight didn't really increase that much.
Did you see his photos at Olympia? He still is a genetic freak.
I know.
You see some pictures next to some of the guys that were taking photos. I think Abuad, who's a funny guy, the boogeyman, whatever. He was taking photos next to him, and Anton as well, Valiant. And Lee Priest looks phenomenal still.
Yeah, he does. I saw him at Dragon's Lair. I was chatting to him a little bit, and his arms are just out of this world. Like it's crazy. So. But yeah, I mean, like, it is exactly what we're all sort of saying. It's the food, it's not the super subs, it's the training, and it really is like there is a genetic factor to it, whether it's in the guts or if it's just your ability to build muscle or but there is all that involved. So it's kind of like Ian said a pretty straight line. He basically said, look, if you don't have the genetic sport, you should probably find a different sport.
Hey, and it's right. Bodybuilding chooses you. Like how many times do you see guys in the gym and they're just like, they're training really hard and they're doing everything right, and it's just not happening for them. Like it's one of those sports, like it comes down to a genetic predisposition to your ability to build muscle and, you know, carry that, you know, because not everybody can.
Matt did kind of break that a little bit though. I've got photos of when Matt was tiny. And he started.
Speaking on genetics, like I played basketball for 10, 15 years. Like I played overseas, I played professionally here in Australia. And I took it to what my genetic potential could really take it to. I mean, I'm 5'10", I'm white. Like they don't scream NBA genetics.
Damn.
Like, to be honest, like
Pro 10, quick.
Pro 10. But like, it's funny that in every other sport in the world, like some people Stan's not going to train for the rest of his life and be competitive in a 100-meter sprint. Like his genetics just aren't going to be successful in that. You know what I mean? And so many people.
And just like,
why did you pick me?
Watching Stan's dreams just get his dreams crushed behind his eyes.
I was actually a very good sprinter in school.
I mean, I'm sure you're a great sprinter. But what I'm saying is that so many people in so many other sports are willing to concede that their genetics aren't elite for that sport, but they choose something different. But yet people aren't willing to concede that in a bodybuilding standpoint. It's interesting.
As a coach, have you ever had to say that to clients?
I mean, you don't say it that bluntly, but maybe this might take a little bit longer than what you thought it was going to take, or for whatever reason.
Yeah,
that's a nice.
You're responding. People respond just at different rates. They might just be super, super slow.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean you got to take more gear just because they're slower.
No.
Yeah.
That's your responsibility as a coach.
Yeah.
You know, you still have like a stewardship to keep them safe and that. Like you wouldn't chuck someone who's gonna just be no good on stage on all the gear and hope for the best, and then they just end up all fucked up down the line. You know, like.
And you get their bloods back. You get their bloods back, and their estrogens through the eyeballs. The conversion's ridiculous. Like it's very dangerous because that causes proliferation of cells and leads to tumors and cancers, and you get very worried about some of these guys doing this stuff. It's ridiculous.
But that's exactly right. It is a dangerous sport, and so like this is kind of what Ian was saying, is like if you don't have the genetics for it, don't push it. Just trying to break your genetics, and then go find another sport, man.
And save your money.
Or maybe another category. Hey, sometimes you got to tell some of these bodybuilders that they just got to do, physique or something like that. Not to say it's an easier category to guys that do physique, but let's not muck around. There's not as much, workouts with the legs and stress and need for other stuff like PEDs. And you got to be real with them, eh?
That's very true. Like, you can still be in the sport, but you're probably not going to be an open bodybuilder. Like,
yeah.
You can still go very far in the sport though. Stan, where are you at? Where's things at with you?
Yeah, I'm just like I gotta do a hernia surgery. So I had an outie belly button genetically, which is like pretty rare, but it always stuck out. And then I had appendicitis. So it wasn't from bodybuilding, it wasn't from deadlifts or anything like that, or from lifting heavy. But when they did the keyhole surgery, they cut underneath the belly button, and that popped out probably 2 weeks later, like the stitching. So I had that, and then I got a mold hernia above it. And the professor I went to see said that will slowly climb up the linea alba, which is that separation of your ab line. So you need to get it fixed. So I'm booked in on the 18th with this professor to get it done, which is bloody $6,000. So not looking forward to that. I could do it under Medicare, but they reckon that you want to see someone who's like a specialist, especially if you want to keep competing and you're concerned about that. So he's going to do that operation. And then
I was going to ask a question about like how you think it'll change the look of your midsection. Are you worried about that?
Well, he told me he's worked on supermodels, and he won't do the whole cutting through or cutting horizontal or vertical. He'll just go under the belly button and then push the mesh actually behind the abs, like behind the muscle. So a lot of doctors just plumb it up behind the belly button.
Yeah.
But he's going to go further back, and I think that's where you pay the big bucks. So I'm happy about that. And he told me for the first time in my life he's going to give me an innie with the belly button, which is like the best day ever. Because bro, I've been to Bondi Beach, man, and I've been walking around and people are like, oh my gosh, they're all pointing at me, and then they're like, look at his belly button, and I'm like, this is 20 years of work, you prick. You know, it's gut wrenching sometimes. So I would love to have an innie, and he's promised me that.
Yeah, well, this is your Christmas
And
present.
then yeah. And then other than that, we booked a family holiday in Japan in May, May. So I can't do season A now, but that's kind of good because I think I need to put on a lot more size to sort of sit around like 100 on stage or 99ish, you know. It doesn't really. I don't care about the number. I just want to look the best. But that would then, I think, like, you know, leave a big mark and finally get me that pro card, hopefully.
And so what does that mean for what you're doing now? Like, are you eating heaps now? You like maintenance? What do you do now?
Yeah, I don't track any calories. I honestly didn't track it through the whole prep either. But yeah, I'm eating a high volume.
What?
There are people just punching the air right now, hating this shit.
Yeah.
Screaming into pillows.
So dive into that. Did you just have like a meal plan and then you just progressively ate less of that meal plan and just ate the same thing every day?
Can I be honest with you? I didn't have a meal plan. I just ate when I could, and because I'm very, very busy with work, and I just have really clean food that's packed with nutrients and nutrient dense. I used to do macros. I do macros for clients. I do plans for clients. I'm so sick of it. It's kind of like if you work at McDonald's, you don't want to eat McDonald's anymore. So this last prep, I just said, fuck it. I'm going to do like a 1990s. They never tracked the macro in their lives. Didn't even exist back then. And they looked the best ever, in my opinion. And I just did that. So I just ate when I could. And I just had really low carbs through the day and just punched carbs at night. It looked fantastic. Felt great. No stress. It was the best prep ever.
I will admit, I did something very similar with my prep.
I love that you admit that.
Go, Matty.
So,
Go.
No, just in terms of that, like I feel like Stan and I, we know our bodies pretty well. Mine was a little bit different because I sort of had to make a weight, which is a little bit different. But you know, I would sort of do it the way, sort of same way James Hollingshead sort of did his prep. So I'd do a couple of low days in a row, and then when I felt myself just on death's door, basically, I'd give myself a refeed. And same thing, I wouldn't track it, but I mean, we've all been doing this long enough that we kind of understand, you know, general macros of different food groups. We know what food responds well with our body and things like that. So once you sort of get to that point and you're a bit more in tune, I mean, how many shows have you done, Stan?
Yeah, I'm up to like 13th show, and definitely not for a beginner to do, like you said. That's a great point. You got to really know your body. Yeah. I'm huge on just not cheating too. Like if you can find nutrients that stop you from eating shit, you're going to look fantastic, because it tends to be you inflame your guts from excess omega-6 from seed oils and junk food, and then you look like crap. You know, you can't fix inflammation. Once you're inflamed, you're going to put on 2-3 kilos and look like shit. So if you can avoid bad food and eat well through the whole prep, you're going to look pretty good. But in saying that, if you're a beginner, you should definitely track and find out what works and what doesn't and stuff like that, you know? Yeah, good point.
Most of my tracking was done purely from a data reference point standpoint of, okay, this is what I consumed for these 3 days, and this is how my body responded, and this is what I consumed from like my refeed per se, and this is how my body responded. It wasn't like I was aiming for targets on specific days. It was like, okay, this is what I have done, and this is what my body looks like. And then I would tinker with that and play around with that a little bit. And I mean, I think I did an okay job, but.
You just looked in the mirror, like just checked your posing, and that was what your reference was?
Yeah, pretty much.
Did you even do prep photos? Did you even do comp photos?
Yeah, I did. I definitely did like check-ins, like same time, same posing every day type scenario. But that was for me. That's just the.
I didn't even do that.
For me, that's just a habit thing. Like I'll get up, take my morning sups, do my morning cardio, and then do like pop a couple of rounds of posing and take photos of that. And that was just my morning routine every morning.
And don't you find when you enjoy your prep and you're not so, I mean, I find if I'm taking photos, tracking everything, I get almost like psychotic about it. Like it's like so mentally draining for some of these people. Like they're so obsessed. And do you really think that, 50 calories more of this or 50 calories more of that is going to completely change your physique? Like if it's healthy food and nutrient dense, it's a no. Do you know what I mean? Like people are just feeding you that to sell you programs, really.
The part that sort of makes me think about it or laugh about it is the people that are so meticulous with their food, right? And they will track every gram of rice that goes into their body, right?
They look
but
shit.
They won't track their sleep. They won't track their sleep. They won't track their water. They won't track their training progress. Like it.
Or they fall in the trap of thinking that the macros is all that counts and start eating pizza and burgers and it's within my macros. Like it's not. It's just you're just lying. You're just weak-minded and you're eating food to fit it in to cheat. That shits me the most.
That definitely is going to mess with your gut bacteria, which is going to have a huge impact on what you look like. So that's not the work that's going to work.
Yeah, it takes almost 3 to 4 months to remove seed oils from your body. So as soon as you had something deep fried, you're screwed.
Yeah. So okay, so Matt and Stanley Boy. So, like, how would you eat the same thing every day? Is it something different every day? Are you going to have like higher fats and proteins during the day and then carbs at night? Are you having carbs in the morning? Are you splitting the carbs all amongst every meal? Like, how did you do that? Stan, kick us off.
So I love starting the day off with protein. From everything I've read, if you do have carbohydrates, you'll crave them more throughout the day. So I'll start with a high protein, high fat meal. And if I'm hungry, I'll have a bit more. If I've got a bigger workout that day, again, calories depend on what you're training. I mean, a leg session, we all know, will burn way more calories than, say, an arms day or a chest day or something like that. So if it's a bigger workout day, I'll consume a bit more. This is only this last prep. In the past, I used to track it, gram it, weigh it, whatever. But yeah, this time I just went with what I felt. And then 3 hours, 4 hours later, if I have time, I would eat a high protein, high fat meal with short chain fatty acids, not long chain fats. And then, try and get 2 or 3 more meals in. If I could eat more, there wasn't a weight category, unlike Matt, so I could just push more food because I wanted to get into under hundreds. Originally, I wanted to stay in under hundreds too. But so I just try to eat more. And the more I ate, the faster my metabolism got, the leaner I got, the more muscular I got. See, with bodybuilding, you can eat more because you want to put on more muscle tissue and you want to speed up your metabolic rate more. And then I just carb up at nighttime. And I honestly did it with rice bubbles just before bed every night.
So you were training, so you were having a high protein, high fat meal and then training?
Yeah, no carb up. I would have carbs intra-workout, so like what Mike Calusi was saying the other day. He's kind of made me realize you could push it a lot more from that last podcast as well. So I was only having about 50 grams carbs intra-workout. That was my first carb up of the whole day. And now I've realized, man, you can punch like he was saying 150 grams. I've been doing 125 lately.
I wouldn't do that. I've tried it in the past to go above about 80 or 90, and like I would feel sick, like in the stomach.
I think it depends on the carbs, brother, because I had highly branched chain cyclic dextrose, fine, but then you have dextrose, like from other companies, and you're bloated and gross. It's a great point you make, because the other day I swapped the carb and it was disgusting. Well, I was so bloated. So dextrose is just corn sugar. Multidextrin is just a chain of corn sugars, but the cyclic dextrose is peptide dextrose. It's a lot more easier to digest.
You are right, Stan, because last time I did try and go above that sort of 89 mark, I think I was saying multidextrin or something like that. Then in the prep, I swapped to cyclic dextrin, but I wasn't having as much. So I wonder now if I did push it above that sort of number, but in the cyclic dextrin, if I would have had to go higher. So I don't know, maybe
Yeah, I really think it depends on the carbohydrate. So you got to be so picky, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then Matt, how did you do a similar approach, or was it different for you?
Well, we spoke about it a little bit last time, but I used to enjoy fasting quite a bit. So I'd fast until sort of 11, 12 o'clock most mornings, unless the only caveat to that was if I knew I was training around midday, depending on what I had on plan for the day. So I usually either train 11, 12 o'clock, or I'm training like 5, 6 o'clock at night. So depending on either of those 2 days, depending on what I'm doing with the rest of my day, that's sort of how I dictate it. So if I knew I was training sort of 11 o'clock midday, I definitely made sure I'd get a carbohydrate meal in before that. And that's like Stan said, it'd be like rice flour or, rice in general, or just rice pops or something like that was super easy to get in and digest and utilize. But then, so I kind of just split my meals up throughout the day. If I knew I was training later at night, I'd fast until sort of 12, 1 o'clock, do 1 or 2 meals before I train. And then same thing at Stan, like have a bulk amount of sort of calories left post-workout and then just destroy them before I go to bed. And I'd wake up dry as fuck.
And you would still...
I think it's really funny too, because like it's important to weigh, like have a grams and your weight of your food. But people with the macros don't understand. If you freeze the food or store it differently, it will change the macros. If you add fat to carbs, you increase resistance starch and lower the sugar in the carbohydrates, which changes the complete macros. So their macro count is nowhere near what they really think it is. Do you know what I mean? But the grams are super important, so you know what works for your body.
Actually, I had a customer come in the store the other day, and they were talking about how she's been forcing down 3 raw eggs every morning because someone told her that's the best way to get protein in. And not until I enlightened her that the protein in the egg whites actually changes when you cook it, and she couldn't understand it, couldn't fathom it.
It's actually almost its absolute worst raw.
Yeah, so I think it's the bioavailability of the protein in egg whites is like 20-something% raw, and it's like 50-60% in cooked. So yeah,
that's interesting.
And then adding the yolk, which changes the whole amino profile again. Yeah, great point.
Absolutely.
So I mean, your macro counting, it's a great guideline to have, but people are so obsessed with it these days. It actually makes me sort of, I don't know, like they gotta relax a bit, and just go by the grams more than anything, in my opinion. Because if you know what you're eating and you know what it's working, and then you can obviously increase the calories or decrease them with the grams, but you don't really end of the day know your calories really.
No, and what I think happens with that is, and the reason why I said this at the start is like you write down a meal plan. This is what I did. I wrote down a meal plan. This is what I'm eating. I ate the same thing every single day, and then I would check in with Logan and every couple of weeks or whatever, and we go, okay, we need to drop the calories. Now, the calories didn't matter, like the macros didn't matter, but what we did is we took something out, or we made it less, and that's all it is just we're getting less. It's not necessarily how much calories, not necessarily how much the macros is. It's the same meal plan for 16 weeks, but it's just becoming less and less and less, whether it's through the grams or if it's through the type of, taking a whole meal out or something. That's pretty much.
Other guys can increase their calorie expenditure, right? So they can just do more cardio, infrared sauna, supersets, drop sets. That changes your whole calorie count as well, doesn't it? Because you're burning more.
That's correct. That's what we
just started prep. So
I think we were 6 weeks out, and then he goes, all right, let's not take away any more food. Let's start putting some cardio in. And that's literally like all we did. It was the most simple prep I've ever done. And it was really it was kind of easy. Until,
your best one?
Well, it was by far the best, but it was just the most simple, and it was only got hard kind of towards the really end. That was really it. It was pretty easy, but before that, we just kept, it was the same food. You just get into your routine. It's just the same thing every day,
You hear so many guys say the simple preps are the best.
Yeah, like I
because you're at peace, aren't you? You're finally at peace in prep.
Yeah.
Well, how are you approaching yours, Louie?
How did I approach mine?
Yeah. No, I'm talking about. Well, you've obviously just started. So, are you meal planning? Are you macros? Like, what's your plan of attack?
So, what I did last time I still would use. I still track my food daily, but I was always tracking from the same pool of foods. So I always had the same group of foods that I would eat from. This time, I want to be a little bit more regimented, and I can just take the whole food thing away completely and not have to worry about that and reduce more stress this time I get my dictated macros. I want to write a meal plan based off those macros, and that's that. And then when my macros get updated, I'll write a new meal plan. So that way every day can just be of the day before and the day coming, and I don't have to worry about anything like that. I'm not going to have any food focus. because all my questions around food have been answered by me. So I'm not going to give myself that, or can I have, because you know when you get really hungry and your body's like, hey, eat some of that, eat some more of that. You know, the answer's going to be no ahead of time. So I'm going to do that this time and just make it a little bit more, I don't know, just stress-free. If I don't have to worry about food for 3 months, then I don't have to worry about food for 3 months.
Yeah.
That's another thing. I love sedatives in prep, like natural sedatives, because you don't want to, they make you less hungry. Like you're relaxed. You tend to be hungry when you're very, and you can avoid overeating or focus more on things like Matt said, like if you need to fast some days, if you're just not coming in hard enough. I love sedatives in prep too. Not many people mention it, but yeah, I'm big on taking heaps of natural sedatives throughout the whole prep.
Yeah. Me too. And one thing I took off Matt for my last one, because Matt came to visit for season B. He came up to the Gold Coast for a little while, and I was hanging out with Matty, and he was telling me that he's like fasting until like midday, and I was like, oh yeah, all right. Like at first I was like, are you sure? But then you know what? I tried it, and it's easy. Like after that first hour or two, your body stops begging for food, and you can kind of just keep going. So it also is not too bad because you kind of shorten your window of eating, which you feel a bit more full in that time as well. So you're kind of portioning a good part of your day to liberating fat, and then another good part of your day to maintaining and doing the tissue work, which I think is really awesome, instead of 1,000 ways to skin a cat. But I think that's quite an effective way to put a few eggs over here and a few eggs over here and pay attention to both,
Big increase in HGH too from a fast.
Yeah. And from HGH. Lol.
Yeah, that's interesting, Louie. I was just watching a YouTube sort of seminar thing with Mike Israel, and he was talking about like the most optimal way to lose weight really quickly. And he was saying like fast for 3 hours after you wake up. And it's one of the best ways, because you're low calories, you shorten your window, you get your free HGH, like it's really good. So that's a great thing. And also Big Mike Halusi, who we had on the other day, he was saying exactly the same thing. He would wake up, he'd walk to the gym, he would, do some work at the gym, and then about 3 or 4 hours later, he would have his first meal.
Well, the thing too, and one massive thing that gets overlooked is the hydration component. If you're fully hydrated, you're 19% stronger. That is a massive difference. So a lot of these guys, and they're waking up and their first thing is plow in food, and they've got like a dry digestive system. They've just pissed out all their water overnight. You're kind of leaving some stuff there that you could be doing better on. So I think, especially for like flushing toxins and getting your body set for the day, I think a fast and hydration and a bit of exercise is the best, because it gets things moving. It flushes all those toxins pulling in your belly overnight, and then you can start to, pull that water where it needs to be before you start putting all that crap in. Because when you're a bodybuilder, you're pretty much pounding your system all day. If you could start and just be kind for the first couple of hours of the day to your system, I think you're going to get a way better response during the rest of the day. Food will digest better, workouts will be better, you'll be stronger, and you won't know why. And it's all just because you're a bit more fucking hydrated.
Yeah, and your colon's the size of a tennis court, and you need a thing called peristalsis. So you need a lot of potassium to actually move. You need electrolytes and a lot of electricity to move the bowels. Otherwise, you start getting constipated, issues with your gut, and poor digestion. So you're bang on, man. If you don't have enough electrolytes, you're screwed. And a big indicator of it is heart beating in your ear or ringing sound in your ear. So if you can hear like a boom, boom, boom or a knee, it tends to be you're severely dehydrated. And the sucky thing too is a lot of blood markers. Like I get a lot of blood work back, but a lot of people don't realize that 98% of potassium is trapped inside your cell. So you only have a 2% marker on your bloods. So everyone that comes back and goes, oh, my potassium is fine, I'm all good, I'm hydrated. No, you're not. You don't really know. And the blood marker is just it's a good indicator for a lot of things, but not that much for potassium.
Yeah.
Which is your main hydrator.
So Stan, is there a way to, like you said, get your bowels moving through electricity, so to get your electrolytes into your system first thing in the morning?
Yeah, well, I mean, sea salt's fantastic for hydration, but the biggest one's magnesium and potassium. And you need to understand when you're in a hot climate like we are in Australia, plus you're exercising and sweating so much, plus eating some foods that actually take away potassium, like insulinogenic foods, like our carbohydrate, high GI carb when we train, the insulin will actually strip away potassium. So you need to increase. I mean, I use the 180 greens. That's a product that we have. That's 49 fruits and vegetables, and I use that 2 or 3 times a day during prep, and only 1 time when I'm off season. But during prep, 3 times a day. And they're low in calorie. These green shakes, so they don't spill you over. But you're getting so much electrolytes, and one of the best forms of potassium is that baby wheatgrass. You know, they have the little shots there, and they're gluten free as well because the wheatgrass in it. No, it says wheat, but it hasn't grown into the wheatgrass yet. It's still the baby. So they tend to be not having too much gluten in there either. And they'll give you shit tons of potassium. And other than that, you know, bananas, sweet potato, there's some really good carbs. And then chicken's really high potassium. So having a good quality organic meat will have high potassium as well. But yeah, I think a lot of guys, a lot of bodybuilders out there need to start really thinking about having a lot more greens every day as well.
Now, if you're trying to implement that with a fast, is it okay to fast and then have that green supplement, or would you have the green supplement before you fast, or how would you do that?
Well, every nutrient requires insulin. So fat needs insulin, protein needs insulin, carbs need insulin. And I mean, vegetables have carbs, so do fruit. So if you're trying to properly fast, you should just probably skip it all, even though it's so low in calories. But, you know, if you're fasting, I guess. So I would say if you wanted to fast, you just skip it all and then introduce them when you start eating. Yeah.
And also, like those nutrients and those electrolytes and everything, it stay in your system for quite a while. And especially if you have it like another one at nighttime, by the time you wake up.
Well, it is an electrolyte which creates electric conductivity, which is energy. So nighttime, maybe not too much because you might interrupt your sleep. It's kind of like, it's going to produce electric conductivity, which is electricity that generates energy. So a lot of electrolytes at night, not such a good idea.
Okay, so you're having it 3 times a day. When are you spacing them out in your
morning, midday, and pre-training? So like mid-arvo. So I usually train around 2, 1.
That's interesting about pre-training because you're getting that spark of electrolytes. Do you have any electrolytes when you're training as well, or is that just for pre-training?
Yeah, I love electrolytes intra-workout as well because you know, muscles contract because of calcium and relax from magnesium, and you're wiping out both of those things when you're training. So keeping it up is like Louie said before. If you're more hydrated, you'll have what did you mention? 19% better performance. So there is heaps of studies that if you're super hydrated, you'll definitely train at a high level for sure. And that's why some guys say, "Wow, this is the best workout of my life," but I did that same workout last week and it wasn't so good. You know, it's your hormones and your electrolytes and so many other things going on.
Yeah, my intra workout, I always put a scoop of Hydrolyte Sport. I don't know if you know what that is. That's a big tub that comes in Hydrolyte, and it is packed with electrolytes. It also has a little bit of glucose in there, which is the conversion of carbohydrates. So you're getting it straight in your system. I feel great when I'm having that. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, I love how you said that too, because it took me a long time to get my head around sugar as well. But the only way to get into the cell, you need insulin as a key to get those nutrients into the cell. So you can't be that afraid of some sugar sometimes as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I also, complete transparency, I'll take a shot of fast-acting insulin with pre-training as well. So having that glucose and having, I'll have my clustered extrin as well. Like it's a great thing for growth and, shuttling all your nutrients and your electrolytes into the system as well.
Was that during your prep or after?
More in the off season, not so much. Like the early start of a prep, maybe, but about 10 weeks out, 8 weeks out, that goes. You there?
I've lost you.
It was just a pause for a second.
All right, we're back.
me and Maddie were watching Stan and Adam kind of just like glitch out for a second.
Yeah, it glitched.
We're just waiting in silence.
Okay, cool, no worries.
It glitched,
Couple
Adam.
of boys.
You were saying, were you having it before off season or prep?
No, I have it more in the off season, and then during prep I might cut it out about 10 weeks out.
Because food's not high enough, do you think?
My food was really high about 10 weeks out.
I was just curious why you took it out.
Well, I was just following the advice of my coach because it's not something I knew a whole lot about, but it was more just to do with sort of water and trying to, I don't know, like other things were coming in, so we like didn't want to stress the body out too much. So at 10 weeks out, at 10 weeks out, I kind of swapped my compounds as well, and I went to more aggressive cutting compounds from like I think up until 10 weeks out, I was kind of running NPP, which is like more of a off-season type of thing. And then at 10 weeks out, the bad boy came in. Everyone's favorite. So, and then I think we just decided, like, look, if we're putting this in, maybe let's just try and let the body not go too out of control. So, Matty, did we talk about what you're doing now?
I'm just trying to grow. That's all I'm trying to do is trying to grow. It's funny, like Louie touched on it earlier, how his off season in prep sort of looks a bit different because he's got to schedule things and what have you. My off season becomes a little bit more hectic. I hate eating. I despise eating. I'm a terrible eater. Like if you gave me the option between 5,000 calories or 2,500 calories in a day, I'm taking the 25 every time. So for me to be able to get enough food in, enough clean food in for me to grow, and it's kind of a double-edged sword because my body's like crazy thermogenic, so I chew through food like nobody's business. So for me to sort of, my maintenance right now is about 4,000 to 4,500 calories. So for me to push above that is actually pretty hard work. So I've got to very regiment my meals and make sure I'm getting it all in and not having to do too much of a nighttime, which is a pain in the ass sometimes.
Do you have like a lower fat diet or higher fat diet or high carb diet? What are you doing now?
I'm definitely high carb. Like my body's always responded really well to carbohydrates. In a prep, I can go super, super low fat and my hormones react accordingly, and I have no issues there whatsoever. So everything's really carbohydrate driven for me. So a standard day for me is pretty comfortably like 700 to 800 grams of carbs, like without it blink of an eye, really.
Yeah.
So I sort of keep my protein at this point, like I said, not tracking a whole lot, but just for my own reference.
Yeah.
Did you lose me for a second?
No.
Yeah, one second.
Yeah.
Shut up, Sam.
Shut up, the honesty there, man.
So for me, I'm sort of around the 280 to 300 grams of protein per day. I guess 600 to 700 grams of carbs, and I keep my fats around 90 to 100 where I can.
Yeah.
Is that sort of similar to what you might do, Stan?
I have a bit more fats than Matt, just because I got a pretty big appetite. So whereas he doesn't. So fats satiate your appetite a fair bit, and I just find if I back them off too much, I'll start eating the house down. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want to do that.
That's where I'm the opposite. I push my fats up too high. 3 hours later, I can't get another meal in. Like
you can't eat.
I'm the same.
Exactly. Whereas carbs will make me really super hungry, and if I don't have some fat in there, I'll just keep eating more and more. So we're actually like yin and yang. We're total opposites, and that's, you got to figure that out, right? Like it's just, and I think it's body types. Like I think you're more of an ectomorph, faster metabolic rate, and I think what you're doing is bang on. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, I love your honesty about it too. But that's what everyone needs to figure out. All these other amateurs and other competitors. Yeah. So, but yeah, if I don't want to cheat, man. I don't want to eat everything I've read about what the carcinogens in this food, the mutation, the fungus, the bacteria, the mold in some of this shit that they feed us. I don't want to eat these things, so I try to do everything I can in my power to not end up cheating so much. So I'll up my fats a lot more than that.
Stan, tell us
And my
about your hatred for margarine.
Did you see that story? Yeah, it's like isn't it 1 or 2% off from being plastic? So if you have margarine in your fridge at home, please chuck it in the bin. I think originally they started giving it to turkeys after it didn't work as a plastic. Turkeys, a lot of them died, and then they made it for humans.
It's so bad, hey. It's not. Apparently,
you know,
it's not even that color. They bleach it after.
They make it the yellow.
Yeah, to make it yellow. That's rank.
Same as farm salmon. They actually feed it coloring to make it pink.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they feed wild salmon like just bread, and it's just not wild, sorry, farmed, and it's out in the ocean. It's a very fatty fish, like we all know, and then it ends up going grey. So they feed it xylo, oxalo. It's a long ass word, and it turns pink when you cut it open.
That's rank.
Yeah, some crazy shit going on. So,
Matty, show us your fridge. You got that margarine in there, don't you?
Yeah, that's what he says. He sent
this is Mel's fridge. We don't have anything untoward in here.
Were you getting up to chuck it out?
Sorry.
Margarine.
We don't have margarine. I was like, what margarine? Do we have margarine? I don't know what's going on.
So, because you struggle to eat, Matty, would you have you played around with how much fat you had? Like you're saying you're around 90 grams. Have you ever tried going lower than that in the off season, or like what have you? Louis chuck out his margarine now.
Louis gone. No, for me, it's like, I mean, when you're pushing that amount of food, it's pretty hard to keep trace fats down. So that kind of just seems like a perfect amount for me. Like personally, like I'll switch out chicken breast for chicken thigh or whatever, and I know straight away that the fats in chicken thigh just don't sit well with me. Just things like that. It's just a lot of trial and error, I suppose. Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, so for me, like I'm very similar to you. Like I'll just churn through carbohydrates.
Yep.
Just before going to Vegas, I was pushing 1,200 carbs a day. Like that was just, it was hard to do. It was hard to do. It was like a lot of food, and my body just loves carbs, loves it.
What carb source, Adam?
Yeah.
My breakfast, which against what you were saying, because I'm having that many carbs, I just have to have it in every meal. So so pretty much every meal is 200 grams of carbs, and breakfast would be like 12 wheat bix with like Cocoa Pops. Like 100 grams of Cocoa Pops as well. Then second meal is like chicken, 175 chicken, 300 rice, 200 sweet potato. Was it 300? I don't know, whatever. I get it from Food Fitness. They send it to me.
Plug.
Yeah, plug.
So much better having a prep company, eh?
Yeah,
so much better.
So much easier. I didn't use them through the prep though. And I think I will next time, because it will just be much easier. Definitely will. And also
I do too.
Consistent. Third meal, I had this huge pancake. This is a massive pancake that I make. So it's got like 180 grams of like self-raising flour, and like I put berries and bananas and all sorts of shit. And then a couple hours later,
it's just a cake.
Just a cake.
That's pretty much. And then about an hour after that, I'll go train. And then when I'm training, I have like some pre-workout sort of 40 to 60 grams of cyclodextrin, and then I have another sort of 40 grams with a Gatorade when I'm training. And then what else do I have? Oh, then I get home and I have another one of those chicken meals, and then I have dinner, which I have steak and chips. That's where I get my fats from, the last meal, because all the other ones are pretty much under about 10 grams of fat in every other meal. and I just get my.
It's really cool because we're all completely different, aren't we?
Yeah, that is cool.
So the reason why I do that is I leave all my fats pretty much to the last meal of the day, because I find if I had fats early in the day, I just can't get all the meals in. I just don't have the appetite. So I need to
same
keep
thing.
fats. Yeah, I need to keep the fats under 10 grams in each meal, so that I am hungry again in a couple hours time.
Yeah.
It's the only way I can get that many carbs in the day. But yeah, it's a lot of food. It's a lot of food. But
sometimes you just got to pull that fat out, because I'm the same. I'm on 50 grams of fat a day.
Yeah.
And if I have a chunk of that in the morning, it slows you right up, man. And then
slows
you have
right down.
It's similar to, like, and I know it might be different for us, but a lot of people who are going to watch this, when you eat junk food, like proper junk food, and it affects your whole next day and sometimes the following day, just from that clogging up. Like, you go and get yourself a double quarter pounder with your 50, 60 grams of fat in it, and you're going to feel that for a couple of days. It just really slows up the turnover rate. And I reckon it slows up your synthesizing of nutrients as well, 100%, just because of that. You can feel that in your stomach, you know?
100%, man. And like everything gets worse after that. Like your training feels like crap. You feel sluggish. You don't even want to get out of bed. Like, yeah, 100%. And when you're eating good nutrition, you feel good, and you have more power, more output in the gym, and just you feel good, you know?
You feel good here too.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest one. You feel good there. You feel clear when you're not eating all that junk. Because like Stan says, they're sneaking a lot of shit into your food, man. You know, and you open your eyes, you see that meat. Have you ever gone to Macca's and just like take away the sauce, take away all this tasty shit, just take a bite of that meat. That meat tastes like no meat you've ever eaten in your life.
It's so true, because there's over 50 different terms for MSG in Australia.
Yeah.
So in Europe, when I was overseas like 3 years ago, on the packaging it says MSG, contains MSG, or MSG free. It's that simple. And their laws just seem to, cover that a lot more. And over here, it's almost as if it's being hidden. If you look it up online, there's over 50 terms for MSG in Australia, which is just ridiculous. Like,
go deeper, Stan. What is MSG for those who don't know, and what are some of these other things that they're calling it?
It's methyl sulfate glutamate, and it's highly excitatory, which will stimulate gluconorates in your brain, which end up causing ADHD and all sorts of OCD, bipolar. It's neurotoxic, so it's damaging brain cells and killing brain cells. And it leads to diabetes because it creates way more insulin than any carbohydrate ever could. It makes the food tastier because it expands your tongue, so you taste food better. So when you go to a restaurant, you're like, oh man, this shit's on house food. I want to come back here every day, because that's happening. And that's how they end up selling you, more food and making you hungrier. A lot of people notice after they've eaten MSG, they're actually starving afterwards as well, especially when they're not used to it. Like if you give me MSG, I will eat like 3-4 meals after that straight away, because I don't touch the stuff. And when I accidentally do, like I've gone to an auntie's house, she just loves using it. And I come home and I'm just so hungry. And it depletes heaps of potassium with all that insulin spike. So every time you're eating it, you're dehydrating yourself and potentially leading to type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance.
And so what type of foods or is it in?
So other names for it are hydrolyzed whey, vegetable whey, sulfate, glutamate. So they've got heaps of these other names, but it tends to be packaged food. Or anything or 95% of restaurants actually use MSG. So anytime you're going out, you'll tend to be having MSG. And it's really well known in Chinese food. That's where it all started. Let's just blame them.
Now, have they got a bottle of MSG and pouring it in, or is it in the packaged food that they're
good point. So it can be like that. You just use it direct, or it can be in seasonings, Maggi or whatever it is. It can be in herbs mixes that you think are really healthy and they look really good, and they are they're a bunch of herbs, but then they slide it in as well to make it taste better. So it can be in so many things that I recommend people to print off that list and just go through your pantry and try to be really cautious of consuming too much MSG. Or all your fake flavorings are MSG, so most of your supplements, which is embarrassing because I recommend people to use stevia sweetened supplements mostly. But all your pre-workouts, all your carbohydrate that are flavored, that's an MSG.
I actually used to get this mad rash on my arms. Well, it started on my arms when I was like maybe like 17 or something. It started as like a patch on my arm, and then it grew on this arm, and then it started to spread across my chest and all this stuff. And I ended up going to get a skin patch test, and I was allergic to formaldehyde. And that's in all of the, they're using that to preserve all the food. It's in a lot of the sweeteners in pre-workouts and all that stuff convert into that in the body. So, and that's around the time I started using bulk nutrients like it was my Bible, because they don't use that crap. But yeah, man, that shit's toxic for your body. And I was, when I was young and you think that pre-workouts and proteins and all that stuff is going to build your physique and you're just like ingesting as much of that as you can. I was actually building up such a toxicity in my body that was leaching out through my skin, I
love that you said the triceps too. If you go on my Instagram and check the highlights, a massive food allergy hits your triceps first. I got heaps of people that come to the store and I film their triceps and show people. So if you're listening out there and you got heaps of like chicken skin dots or redness or a rash on the tricep, it's a food allergy. It tends to be a food allergy. Yeah.
There you go. You heard it here first. Big Stan.
Well, and Louie, thanks for adding. Yeah, and it's nuts, Louie, because you're right. Like, you're right about it because they say it's so small. It's so small. Like Lane Norton always says, it's such a tiny amount, it won't affect you. But you got your pre-workout, you got your intra-workout, you got your post-workout shake. Like it ends up adding up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, it will affect you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Well, that's really interesting. So we all covered sort of what we're currently doing. For me,
you haven't covered you.
Yeah, I just realized that as I was saying that. For me, like I've been on a 3-week holiday. Like we went to Vegas and then we went down to Melbourne and hang out there for a little bit. So and I had planned after the show to keep pushing. I changed my compounds around. I didn't come off. I went from the more aggressive cutting diet compounds to more like bulking up sort of compounds. When I say compounds, I mean Deca. That's what I mean. one thing. But I went into that and really upped my food. I went from my lowest. I went with my dieting when I was in prep. I think it was like 2,500 or 2,000 or something. To pushed it right up to like 6,500, 7,000, and like 1,200 carbs. Pushed it as hard as I could until we left to go to Vegas. At my peak weight, I got to 118, and which was I think I was
thick.
I think I was about 95 on stage. So yeah, a decent above my stage weight. And then yeah, so then we went on the holidays. So I went on TRT, and TRT for me is like 1 mil every 10 days. So a little bit under one a week, I think.
Adam, why didn't you actually compete in the amateur over there? Can I ask?
Yeah, I kind of had the thought of doing it with Sontane. We had talked about doing it together. And when I saw her up there competing on the overseas stage, I was so jealous. I've got to admit, I was like, wow, this would have been such an amazing experience. And I was really jealous that I didn't do it. But I really wanted to come back next year, season B, compete again and be in a heavier weight class. And I realized that if I spent another 6 weeks dieting, that's like think about this, 52 weeks in a year. Right, a good 4 months of that you're prepping, so you take away 4 months. Now you're taking away another 6 weeks because you're continuously dieting. And then I knew I was going on a 3-week like sort of holiday sort of thing, so I was kind of just like, I'm getting rid of a lot of weeks that I could be in a growing phase. and I just made
You would have ended up being the lightest guy on the podcast, like me now.
Yeah. So I just decided, I could use this 6 weeks to really try and, I guess, I don't know if this is really a term, but called the rebound effect, and just try and build as much muscle as I could, then go on to a bit of a health break, and then go on back onto a building phase again, and see how much growth I could really get in the off season. I did really well last off season. I built a lot of muscle. So I wanted to really try and have another good off season. Yeah. So I didn't compete over there.
You the Adam that I was pumping up with backstage for nationals wasn't doing the Olympia.
No.
He was dying for some
My
pizza.
My head was already gone, man. I was talking to Louie backstage about getting a 1 meter pizza backstage. I was like, Louie,
you guys want to come?
You come with me.
You want to bring your partner?
And there is the truth, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. It's so funny.
Well, it's funny. I think I had about a 5-minute conversation with Adam backstage at National, and I think he probably only heard about 2 sentences of what I even said. To be honest with you,
You're spaced out, man. You're next level spaced out.
That was the pizza. No, but So I was actually talking to Louie. When were we chatting, Louie? A few days ago. I can't remember. Whatever.
Yeah, a couple of days ago.
Yeah, and I was saying to Louie, he asked me if I reckons I'll be in the super heavies next year in season B. And I said to him, well, the same time last year, summer holidays, right? I weighed 93 kilos. And then I did a really big sort of, I decided I want to compete again in season B. I want to push really hard. So I started training and eating really high. I went straight up to I didn't go straight up, but I built my calories up to about 6.5, I think I did. And I grew and grew and grew, and I got up to 112 at the peak of my off season, before I decided, okay, it's prep time. We're going to cut down. But this summer, I was 114. So I'm 21 kilos heavier than I was this time last year. So it's okay, I'm probably going to make the super heavies if I get the same growth that I got in the last year. So that's kind of the main reason I wanted to not compete in Vegas. I wanted to try and push pretty heavy and go hard.
And it does seem in the Oz circuit that the super heavies sort of tend to be picked out a lot more too for the pro card. I'm pretty sure last season that we all did, everyone that won every state was a super heavy.
I think so.
Yeah. Hey, you weren't
except for me.
Yeah, you weren't super heavy.
Except for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Liam won
out of the 4 states. Yeah.
Yeah, Liam won states. Luca won the overall national.
And who else won in WA? Was he a super heavy too?
Who was WA? Oh, and then Melbourne was.
WA split just into over and under 85, isn't it?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And wasn't didn't Lucky win in Melbourne?
Oh, actually, you're right. Yeah, Lucky. He was under hundreds, wasn't he?
Or was he under 100? I thought he was over.
I thought it was super.
I'm pretty sure Lucky's over.
Was he over? My bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone that was over. So you got more likelihood of going better, eh?
Look, at the end of the day, it is bodybuilding, and if I'm honest, if you're gonna win your pro card, and you're gonna go over to America or you're going over to the UK and you're gonna represent Australia and you're gonna go against these mass monsters,
you gotta be jacked.
You gotta be kind of at the same size to be able to compete with them. It is hard. Yes, we have a 212 category, right? And if you can make the 212, then you most definitely deserve the win because you can fit into that category. But if you're, if they want to pick someone who can really go up against the other people in the other countries, the bigger guy is probably going to do better. So that it makes sense why they might always go for that bigger guy. And it's also bodybuilding. Right, that's what we are. We're building as much muscle as we can. Now, if that muscle is unshapely and looks awful, then they're not going to win. But if they've got
Man, I'd love to have Louie on the show at some point.
what?
Huh?
Oh, sorry, not Louie. I'm sorry.
Luca.
Lucky. Sorry, Lucky.
Yeah.
Because to bail on that last week or wasn't a flight to catch the flight to Queensland. That's where he stopped. I'd love to hear his just what happened, like his mindset.
Yeah, I know a little bit about it because he's obviously Melbourne based down here with me, and we've crossed paths in a couple of gyms and we chat quite a bit as well. So I think he's got a lot to offer. Obviously, his mental battles aren't completely secret. Everybody certainly knows that he's battled some demons and been through some ups and downs and stuff like that. So I think he'd have a lot to offer from that kind of a standpoint. Just talking through his mindset, and I know for a fact personally that he's working with some professionals to sort of help him get over that.
That's
and
good.
credit. Say again, sorry.
That's really good.
Yeah. And like I said, I know a fair bit about it, but it's not my place to say or talk about it. So I'd love to have him on and him to be a bit more specific about, what he's going through and what he has gone through and stuff like that. Because I think there's a lot to take away from that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people need to hear that too. Because how many guys do we know that don't compete just because of the mindset side of things?
Yeah.
It'd be cool to have him on.
Yeah, there's from Queensland, Josh Andrews as well. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, true, same.
Incredible physique, amazing physique. But last few years hasn't been able to go all the way. And he kind of looks shredded year round anyway. So he wouldn't have to work that hard to get to stage. So
Wait, white people don't usually have muscle bellies like that.
No.
No.
Like that's a put together dude. Josh is.
He's fairly tall too, isn't he?
No,
He's a little bit taller than me.
He's not massive. He's not massively tall.
In bodybuilding terms.
Yeah, he's taller than us then.
Yeah, he's taller than that.
He's so tall.
Whoa, it's up there.
Yeah, for a bodybuilder. Yeah, that's a great point. That's another one. Like you got the physique, you got pro physique, and they don't do the show.
Yeah, and there is definitely mental battles there. So actually, I think that would also be a great podcast for so many other people to listen to and take on board that, realize that other people are going through the same battles. And that's
maybe if we get them on at the same time, like both of them, so they can relate. You know what I mean? As well,
if we can. But I mean, going back to your question, Stan, that's why I decided not to. And the big thing for me is just I wanted to see if I can get that same sort of growth that I got in the last year, this year. So I'm still in a health phase at the moment, and I'll stay on that until the end of January, and then I'll get my bloods done, and I'll check to see if everything's in good working order. I can already see my face. Like my face is in a big balloon, like it was probably in the last podcast. But it'll be good to check everything out. I can't recommend to everyone who's watching this enough how important it is to get your bloods done if you are going down that. You know what? I was going to say, if you are going down that line, if you're just a bodybuilder in general, even if you're natural as well, it's like you are stressing out your body. Like it's so important to get your bloods done and just check that everything's going well. Even if you're not a bodybuilder, get it done.
Yeah.
So, get those done. Check it out. Make sure everything's in working order. And then if things are good to go, then just go back onto the same process. Push the food right up. I'll bring in compounds like Deca again, and that's it really, and go. Nothing over the top though.
Rinse and repeat.
Huh? Yeah, it is. It really is. You have to really enjoy the lifestyle. You have to enjoy the food and it can't be a chore. Because if food's a chore, training's a chore, you're probably not in the right sport.
If you don't like it for what it is, you're not going to last very long, let alone be successful.
Yeah.
I mean, we can all attest to this, but bodybuilding is boring as fuck.
Yeah.
Wait,
so boring.
Ask me how many times I leave the house a day.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, was chatting to someone the other day, and they're like, "Oh, what are some of your hobbies? What do you sort of do with your life?" And blah blah blah. And I was like, "Oh, well, I eat, and then I train, and then I'll watch some YouTube on bodybuilding, and then I'll eat again, and then it's probably bedtime." So,
or when people ask you, "What did you get up to today?" That's the fucking worst one, because I don't know.
no clue.
I think it's the worst when you're like somewhere like not like that people love like an event or something like that, and all you're thinking about is going to the gym.
Yeah.
I'm getting my next meal in. When's the next meal?
Yeah, and then when's the next meal? It's horrible.
Yeah. Bless us.
No, that's great, boys. I think that's really what like today's podcast was all about, was to catch up, have a bit of a chat, and sort of see where everyone's at, because since the first podcast that we did, and also it's great that the podcast is doing so well already, which is awesome. People actually want to listen to us and talk the shit that we talk. Who the hell is that?
That's my son getting in the background.
I'm always interested to see where Stan is next in the podcast. He's always in a different location.
Always in a different spot.
So Stan needs a green screen or something, and he can be like on tropical islands and all that stuff.
Now, before we finish up, boys, Matty Boy was talking about the Arnold Sports Festival has just been released, the list. What do we think? Who do we got? We've got Bonac, we got Samsung, Sean Clarita. That's going to be interesting.
Kamal, yeah.
What?
2-on-2.
Miles doing it as well.
Wait, so is Sean doing 2-on-2 or is he doing open?
Open.
Kamal at 51 years old. Like, what the freak?
Oh, he is a freak, man. And his physique looks incredible. No matter if you're saying for his age or not, his physique looks great.
He needs to work on those eyebrows.
I don't think that part is judged, luckily for him. Okay, let's kick these off with Sean Clarita versus these open guys, weighing probably 80 kilos. How is he going to go against Samson, who is probably 120 kilos on stage, 125?
I can't wait to see them standing next to each other. That's going to look so good.
I know.
Yeah.
It's going to look like a mini-me.
Yeah, really.
Literally.
Yeah. Okay, so how's that going to work? What do you reckon, Stan? What do you reckon is going to happen?
Well, we just watched the Open Men's Olympia where two former 2-on-2s came first and second. So it seems like, and from what I heard, the head judge was saying they're looking more and more towards conditioning. So very interesting. I love Kamal's shape, and I think the 2-on-2 guys might make